What I'm actually very interested in is your acting career. How do you stay so humble? How am I?
The less said, the better.
It's like, why is Rahul Dravid saying to me, "Hi, I'm Rahul Dravid"?
I think that's disrespect. Rahul bhai, bhago, bhago, और पहुंचा नहीं है, एक और. And it didn't reach the boundary, and I went to the other side, and I one run, and I just sort of kind of collapsed. I've been playing this game, and I've seen a lot of ups and downs. I've seen a lot of failure. Like every innings you're playing, even from the time you're a school kid, right? You're gonna fail a lot. Every day starts from zero, and you've got to start all over again. The thing that is shrinking is playgrounds, right? Open fields, playgrounds, the kind of big grounds that we grew up in. I have seen a real quality of healthcare, right? Of sports science. Decent level of care should be available to every young boy and girl who's playing any sport in any part of the country. But there are other people who they might suddenly invite who've not played the sport for 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And then when they play, they end up getting injured.
We see so many coming to us with undiagnosed, poorly diagnosed, overdiagnosed, underdiagnosed labral tears.
And then going out to bat wasn't always great fun. You know, by taking catches, it still kept me involved in the game.
तो क्या हुआ जो गिरे, तो क्या हुआ जो थमे, चल उठ जा रे तगड़े जरा, झाड़ के ये कपड़े, दर्द रोके ना हमें, अब सब कमाल है. क्या हाल चाल है, क्या हाल चाल है.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Haal Chaal and Sawaal, where we talk about fitness, recovery and the unsung moments of life. I am Ashish Kaushik, physiotherapist, movement expert and your host for the show. Today we are joined by a legend whose patience, perseverance and performance has inspired an entire generation. His nickname is The Wall, and today we will uncover what his recovery is made of. Please welcome Mr. Rahul Dravid. You've got to be right. You've got to be. You've got to be. You've got to. There's no choice.
What social media influencer now? That's the new term.
Yeah, I know.
That's the new age thing.
Yeah. I'm hoping to stay away from the influencer bit and just
good.
Just put stuff out there.
Good. No, man, good to see you. Nice.
Yeah,
Good setup.
yeah. Thank you.
Looking
Thank
forward
you
to
for
this.
coming in.
It's good.
So how have you prepared for this? Have you got?
I'll be honest, I haven't done too many podcasts here. So, you know, I'm kind of looking forward to this, to seeing how these things pan out.
Fantastic.
So I've done a few other things. But actually, I haven't done many podcasts. I was actually thinking about it yesterday. I haven't actually sat down and spoken to too many people.
So you've massive achiever in cricket that everybody knows of. You've done administration, you've done coaching. What I'm actually very interested in is your acting career. How am I?
The less said, the better.
How did you enjoy that?
I mean, I haven't really acted, to be very honest. I mean, doing the odd few ad films is not acting. I mean, I think that's disrespect to the people who actually act. It's like saying, हाँ मैं गली में क्रिकेट खेला तो मैं क्रिकेटर हूँ. You know,
बोलते हैं लेकिन लोग.
बोलते हैं. But I'm very careful not to do that. To call myself any form of acting. And to be honest, even like I'd say even in school and college and stuff, is probably a bit more of an introvert and not someone who like to do that kind of stuff. But over the years, I've kind of done quite a few of them, and of course the acting part, I don't claim to be a great actor, and you're obviously promoting brands or promoting products or promoting companies. But I think over the years, I'm doing that now for 30 years almost when I think about it. I've met some really interesting people, right, in the field. I think there's some really fascinating people, and you see the creativity involved. You see how clever a lot of them are to get, things out there. You're doing some of these things and you're thinking, and how it will come out in 15 seconds or 30 seconds in which they try to get a message out.
Yes.
And when you're actually doing it, sometimes you think, it's not going to happen. This is going to be too tough to do. And they actually get it out, and they do a pretty good job of it at times. And so, yeah, I think it's fascinating because you get to meet some really creative people and different kinds of people in the field that you're working in. So, yeah, it's been interesting. It's an interesting journey, and I think that's the greatness. I think the grateful thing I'm grateful about, I think, in life and I think in cricket really in the last 30 odd years that I've had in the profession is just the opportunity I think I've had through my cricket to be able to meet such fascinating people in different fields, yes. Right? I mean, you just speak about this, but over the years in different countries, I've met really fascinating people, whether it's been, I mean, even so many people in our, foreign services through the facts that you get to so many of these high commissions and functions and so many business leaders and so many people in sport, of course, variety of sports, different sport, healthcare professionals, sports science people. So I think that's what I'm really grateful for. I think the sport has given me an opportunity to really meet very, very different kinds of people over the years, interact with different kinds of people and see the world, I think travel the world and see really different parts of the world. Of course, play at some of those great iconic grounds that I dreamt of as a kid and always wanted to. And, you're sitting on the radio with your father and, the first memories of cricket are that really, right? Father. And you're listening to his commentary about these great grounds, whether it's at Oval and Lords and, Kingston in Jamaica or, and even, I mean, it's Indian grounds, right? You never got to Firozshah Kotla or Wankhede and the closest you got to an international ground was seeing Chinnaswamy, right, as a kid, and yes. You didn't see anything else. But then to get to play on these grounds that you've kind of been listening to commentary with your father on and your father telling you stories about them. And, I think it was great. I mean, that's what things I'm really grateful about, that cricket gave me that privilege and that opportunity to do that.
Fantastic. I think we will start with the questions now. Rahul, first question, kya haal chaal hai?
Badhiya, all good, all great. Lovely to be here. Nice to be here. Nice to see what you're doing apart from being a top-class sports science professional. You're now a podcast host as well.
Thank you.
Done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. It's something that I'm somehow really enjoying, putting all the stories out there. Hopefully, them being perceived as messages for people to get inspired, for people to get motivated. People like yourselves being very gracious to be there in the podcast and the shows. So thank you. So I was just thinking about this conversation last night and just preparing in my head. Do you know who the first patient was of mine when I came to India and joined the National Cricket Academy? Mm-hmm. And that's our first link.
Okay.
And I bet you won't be able to tell me, or maybe you will. I don't know. That first patient of mine.
No idea. I have absolutely.
Dr. Vijita Dravid.
Seriously?
Yeah, she wouldn't even remember. So I was at the National Cricket Academy, and Paul Close and Paul Chapman used to be there.
Yeah.
And they said, "Dude, are you? Is it okay if Vijita has got some issues with her back or something? It was.
Yeah.
Can you are you able to help her out?" I say, "Yeah, absolutely, it'd be a pleasure." Yeah. And so I saw her briefly.
Okay.
While you were,
yeah, she did have some back issues then, and she had plantar fasciitis issues as well.
Something.
Yeah,
I can't remember what.
Maybe it was, maybe plantar fasciitis. I think at that stage, maybe.
So I've been around the Dravids.
Since a long time.
Since 2009. Yeah. So in fact, when we first met, I still remember very vividly those two rooms at the end of the corridor at the NCA.
Right.
And you came in from Paul Chapman's room and across the window. And he said, "Hi, I'm Rahul Dravid."
Right.
And I didn't know what to say. And I was like, "Hi, Rahul." And I didn't introduce myself. It's like, why is Rahul Dravid saying to me, "Hi, I'm Rahul Dravid"? Everybody knows he's Rahul Dravid.
Yes. So, I was hoping that you would say who you were, but
so I missed that opportunity. One of the things that I've always wondered is how do you stay so humble?
that like a trick question or what? Because the
No,
moment
it's
you,
genuine.
the moment you start telling how humble you are, is you're actually not really humble. So that is a trick question actually. I mean, it's not. Yeah, I think the game has taught me a lot of that. I think the very nature of cricket, I think it's in some ways grounds you a lot. Because I've seen, I mean, right from the time I'm a kid, I've been playing this game and I've seen a lot of ups and downs. I've seen a lot of failure. It's a game of like every innings you're playing, even from the time you're a school kid, right? You're going to fail a lot, and you're going to learn that you're going to be there are going to be tough days, and every day starts from zero, and you've got to start all over again. And I think just that, and I think I just think the values I think I was brought up at home as well, I think were very important. I think the good thing of living I think being brought up the way I was that yeah, cricket was important, but I don't think that it made me any special, in a sense that nothing really changed in the house, so to speak. Whether I'd done well or whether I'd done badly, nothing really changed in terms of the mood of my parents. So of course they were happy and they were proud that I was playing the game, and especially for my father who loved the game himself. But I think it's tough to answer that question. It's just that maybe just the experiences I've had have really helped me. Have helped me over the years.
Because I've seen you in public places, I've seen you in hospitals and in airports, and I've been with you a lot of times. And it's just the unassuming kind of persona of yours that you carry, and you're so comfortable with it. And there's other people faffing around you, but nothing seems to touch you, nothing seems to affect you. Is that also something that you attribute to the culture of your house where you were brought up in that manner? Is that that you?
No, it's. I mean, I think you are a sum of your experiences in a lot of ways. I think your experiences, your surroundings. I think just being brought up in that way, just having that sense of balance, even now with the family, with Vijita and everything. She's seen a lot of life as well in terms of being a doctor and working in government hospitals. So I think, I think a part of that, and I think just also just growing up in a different, I mean, like growing up in Bangalore of the 80s, 70s and the 80s, and just really enjoying that. I mean, just the laid back kind of lifestyle that Bangalore was those days. And maybe a lot of that influenced me as well. Great role models in Karnataka as well, I think. And even, I'd say even in the Indian team, I think. But, especially here in Karnataka, growing up, watching some of my heroes, people like J.R. Vishwanath and Irapalli Prasanna or Chandrasekhar, or, these kind of great names in Indian cricket, the way they carried themselves around, and then Srinath and Anil and people like that who I kind of spent a lot of time with as a young man. So I think a sum of a lot of those experiences, and it's just more comfortable. I just find it more easier, just trying to be who you are and not having to put up a pretense, or not having to try and be someone you're not. I think that's just simpler, and it's a simpler way to live, I think.
Yeah. So you think some of it might also be aspiring to be like the people that you admired growing up?
I think we all have kind of in some ways role models, and we have people that we look up to. So I think I've always admired and respected people who you can carry themselves with a lot of ease, and who can not get sort of not get affected by too many things. And then, like, I think if you think of that Rudyard Kipling poem, right? When he talks about, if you can, I don't know the exact words, but if you can walk with kings and walk with knaves and still be the same, then you'll be a man, my son. So that kind of, I think that's things that inspire you over the years, and can't say I've always lived up to it, and you can't, I think that's a mistake you make when you think that. I'm sure that over the years I've upset and pissed off a lot of people and done things that probably I shouldn't have done, It's just the way it is, and then you have to accept that and accept your mistakes and accept things that can't always be perfect, and you try and just live and just do things you can.
So you spoke about the times of the 70s and the 80s and the role models that you had. Do you think now kids growing up or the youngsters coming up now in any field, just generally, without being kind of stereotypical about things, do you think they have those kind of role models around as well, and they can also be influenced in that manner?
I think we've got to be the role models, right? In that
Point,
sense,
yeah.
right now, if you think about that age group. But yeah, it's a different time and a different generation, right? And I think you can't, it's not really fair to really compare things, right? It's like, and I think this is a constant sort of among any generation, right? You'll always say that, in our generation we did this. And I hate getting into that trap because, I think the world changes, and I genuinely believe that the world changes for the better, right? I think even going back to something that you know so well and are so actively involved in, you think of sports science, right, way back in the 80s and 90s in India and what it was, and you think of how it's evolved and how it's grown, right? Of course, the professionals are different, and the kind of people that you are who are working now might be different to the kind of people who were working in the 80s and the 90s, and the world is changing, and I think that's changing in everything else, and I think it is always progressing forward, and it keeps getting better, it keeps improving. India is improving, and I think if you think about India, it's of course there are parts of the past that you miss, right? But you got to be careful that that you don't reminisce too much, because there are small things about the past that you miss, but there's a lot about the past that you probably would not be happy about, and you're very glad that it's changed and it's become a lot better now. So yes, I mean, I think that's just we all miss Bangalore with less traffic, right? We all miss that. But without the traffic, there's no growth. The city doesn't become what it does. It doesn't afford the people in the city the opportunities that we are all grateful for today, and the comforts we are grateful for today. So I think it all comes with its balances.
Yeah. So nice to have a positive spin on traffic. That was, I think that'll be very well received.
It's hard to have one.
And have you always been like that as a kid, or have you when you get into tough situations, you respond to them, you get impatient, you get violence, probably not the right word, but kind of agitated. How do you deal with that then, with this kind of outlook and persona?
I mean, I've always loved competing. I mean, I must say that I think it's one of the things that I enjoyed as a cricketer. Of course, I enjoyed scoring runs, and you enjoyed this, doing well. But I love the contest, right? I really genuinely love the contest, and in my own way, I loved getting the best out of myself and trying to recognizing that I had a talent and a gift, and I'd been lucky enough to get a gift and a talent that was given to me, and I always wanted to maximize that. I think I was very conscious of that. Right. That I wanted to leave the game with very little regrets. And in the knowledge that I had, in the resources that I had at that point of time, I wanted to try and become the best cricketer I could potentially become. Right. And I think that was important for me, and that meant part of it of, I love just competing, and a lot of it is competing with yourself, really. It's not about also competing with other people, right? A large part of it is also competing with yourself and your own challenges that you face. And I think that that was really sort of important to me, to try and get the best out of myself. I was very conscious of that fact that I had been given a gift, and I wanted to do the best I potentially could. I mean, and of course, I've had disappointments, I think, in my career, as you would do. I mean, you play professional sport at the level I have. It's not all going to be a smooth ride. It's going to be some ups and downs and tough days and tough moments and things that that you're probably disappointed about results. But I don't really have many regrets. I think I tried the best I could. I mean, there are things I look back on 20 years later, and I think, hey, hell, I wish I had done that now. But that's just lack of knowledge, right? If I had the same knowledge 20 years, I think it's just, things have changed. I know more about fitness and training and diet today than I knew in 2000 or 1995 when I started, 96 when I started. So what I knew at that point, I did the best with what I knew.
Yeah.
Some of it now has been proved to be absolute nonsense.
That's the cyclical nature of science, I think.
Yeah. It's absolute nonsense. So why were you doing that? And
like what?
Like I think just running laps around the ground. I think a small thing like that. And I mean, the only thing we knew was run. And that was the training. And the training was that if you did gym, you would become stiff. And if you did gym training, any form of lifting any weights was, very bad for you, and you should never do that.
Yeah.
And so my idea was I just ran a lot, and I just ran rather than, if I think about it, I should have been doing more sprinting. Now when I think about like anaerobic training, people talk about.
Whoa, Rahul.
And yes. No, I'm just saying, like when I look at training today, and I look at the different forms of training, and we can always argue and debate what is right and wrong with today's training as well, and whether, some of it is gone too far on one extreme. But at least, when I look back on it now, there was no concept, there's no knowledge of these things. There was no people telling us that, this was important and this is what you need to do, and there was no science. 30 years down the line, there's been enough research and science, and people have maybe learned through mistakes and error, and you get to another point, and I'm sure 25 years later will be much better and will be much more, and look at the data being collected today and what it's doing. So yes, I mean, there are things like that. There's so many things. I mean, I think when I think about even diet, I mean, small things like diet, right? I think, it was like the amount of Pepsi Colas I think I've had and drinks I've had, fizzy drinks, and not that I don't have them now, it's not that, but it's that just the amount and the concept of, hydration, the concept of right eating. Things are very different today, right? I think, you didn't think twice about eating a burger and or eating a sort of food like that during tours or, and so I think a lot of that has changed and the awareness has changed. But I think in the knowledge that I had at that point of time, I always tried to, I always wanted to know more and wanted to learn more. But I can honestly say that, I tried to do the best I could with what I had at that time.
So let's talk about your inquisitiveness and your want to do the best with the knowledge, and then that leading you to then wanting to acquire more knowledge and knowing the best practices around the time. When do you think that shift happened, where you really found something that was beneficial for you in terms of injury prevention and fitness enhancement?
So I was always curious about it. I'll be honest, I was always curious about it, whether it was, in the early days, in our camps, the fitness trainers that used to come, or I would go sometimes try and go to the Kantirva Stadium and see what the athletics coaches were talking to those guys. And I would have been 17, 18 at that time, right? I was just in college and just sort of getting into the first class scene. And I was always very curious about trying to understand more about these topics.
Right.
I can't remember one particular instance of a thing, but I remember going on my first tour to South Africa, and Paddy Upton, who's became a mental skills coach later on and a good friend. Yeah. Paddy was in those days the fitness coach of the South African team. And I would watch them. This was 1996, my first trip. Okay. And Paddy was the fitness trainer he was a qualified fitness trainer of the South African team. And I would watch the South African team train, and I would see them running and training. And it's very different to what we were doing. Yeah. And I remember, taking Paddy aside at the end of the tour and saying, look, the tour is finished, but can you spend half an hour with me just telling me what you guys do and what is it? And, and just out of curiosity, right? And he was very kind enough to spend good 45, and he shared some papers with me of the knowledge he had. Right. And it was really funny because some of those papers and some of those, like when we were shifting homes maybe 7-8 years ago, I had a lot of this stuff in boxes, and I was actually looking at it, and I actually removed it. And I saw this and it was like funny to see it, and I shared it with Paddy, I took a photo and I shared. And he also told me, my God, my thinking has evolved so much from, some of the things I was telling you then, and how different, I would, if I were to talk to a young kid today on these same topics, I would talk to him so differently from the knowledge I have gained over the last, whatever that would have been, 15, 20, 30 years, right? Yeah. So it's fascinating. But yeah, I think that interest was always there, and that keenness to kind of do that, just to learn a little bit more, right, about the environment that you're in, and how can you get slightly better, how can you improve. Sometimes sometimes I can honestly say that at times I would go overboard with that, because sometimes you can just like be, try to learn too much and confuse yourself at times, right?
Yeah.
But I think that was always my default, and I think I've gained more from it. There's been some downsides of it, but I think overall I'd say I've gained more from just being always interested and curious about things.
Yeah. Because I do remember, and we've spoken about it a few times. I think you struggled a fair bit with cramps. Early part of your career.
Absolutely. I used to sweat a lot.
Okay.
And I would have, it was very common for me to have cramps while batting.
Right from the start?
Actually right from a young age, right from a young age. And the thing was that people told you is just drink more water, and even the thing about, drinking water, nobody really told you to drink, too much water. Like it was it was like, there would be the electrols of the world, and we would try and have a little bit of that, but there was no proper science or understanding behind, these cramps. And I just sweat a lot. So then I was just getting these cramps. I can remember even my under 19 days, I used to get cramps. And especially more even in international cricket, as I started playing longer and 4-day games, 5-day games, I started playing a lot of that. I was getting a lot of cramps and getting sort of affected by them. And it was only, I read this article somewhere, about this Dr. Graham Bates in Perth, this doctor in Perth who's working with these racing car drivers.
Right.
I think, I can't remember the name of I think it is Mark Webber, if I'm not mistaken, and Patrick Rafter. If you remember Patrick Rafter, this Australian tennis player who had suffered from cramps in a tennis match.
Yes.
And I read this article about Rafter and Webber in motor racing, because I think you lose a lot of sweat as well, right? You're in the helmet. And
correct.
And there was this article about them working with this doctor or consulting with this doctor in Perth. And we so happened to go there in 99, and I actually consulted with him. I found his number and managed to trace this guy in the Perth University, and actually went up there and he was kind enough. He's a lovely man, Dr. Graham Bates, a lovely man. And he was actually, interestingly enough, at that time, he was also doing a research. He was commissioned by the American government to do a research on the issue of how do you deal with sweat and water after the war in Iraq in 1990, right? I think the American soldiers struggled with the fact that they were
they were in a different,
because they were worried about like these chemical weapons and stuff. So they were moving around these desert places with this,
the masks
and stuff. And so they were all sweating, and how much and carrying, right? You can carry, I think they've got to the level, I think you can carry small amounts of food or small amounts of pills and get over and have long periods without eating food.
Yeah, right.
But to actually carry water and the quantities of water you need to, you can imagine, to move an army through a desert.
Yeah,
so there was some research that they were doing. I don't know what, but so there is an interesting article that I was reading about him, and so I then connected with Dr. Bates, and we did actually a sweat analysis test in the Perth University, and he put me on this bike in a heat room,
and
he took the sweat out, and he actually measured what I was losing in those sweats. I think he said that we can't stop you from sweating that much, but there's no way, there's no science. We haven't reached that level. And so that's, you are going to be who you are, and that's just natural, and that's genetically who you are. You're going to be sweat a lot, and especially when you play in humid conditions or on the coast. But let's check what you're losing and see if we can replenish that, and whether what you're taking now to replenish that is not adding up. And I think there were some really good things that came out of that, because then there was a formula. I got one of those things done and gave it to a local laboratory here in Bangalore, and a local company here who was able to make me certain amount of packets of that. Important thing I learned was a lot of the drinks that you get in the market and that we were drinking at that point of time had a lot of sugar for taste, right? Because it's obviously got to sell. it has a lot of sugar, and then the sugar fills your stomach up. So then you're not actually able. So what I was having, when people were saying dilute it in 1 liter, what I was diluting it in 2. So I was reducing the level of sugar.
Right.
And then having less water, but having more of this substance, electrolytes and these substances. So, and then just thinking about like, how do you load up before you play a test match? It's almost starts pre-hydration 2 or 3 days before we started measuring the urine, the color of your urine. I remember those spectrometers. We started getting that. So a lot of those things definitely did help me. Never took away the problem completely. I think there's only so much of it you can drink, and if you're losing more than you're drinking, you are going to end up. But it made a big difference, because then I remember from 99, 2000, I was able to manage it much better. I was able to manage the situation a lot better, to the point that, because I was more professional about it. I knew what to do. I was professional in the lead up to the game, during the game, even if it meant I had to run in sometimes to, go to the toilet a couple of times more during the day, because you're drinking so much of the fluid. I knew that that's fine. I had to do that. Otherwise I would end up like have severe headaches or sweating a lot at the end of the day. So I think, so stuff like that, over the years, I kind of just very keen and curious to learn about. And I think that's one thing I think definitely made a difference. And if I actually see I see through my early years, I had a lot of 90s, and I had a lot of scores where I didn't convert a lot of my starts, because I think a large part of it, I was completely dehydrated.
Really?
So
it was bearing on your performance so much.
Obviously, it shows, right? Scientifically, it's now proven now that if you are dehydrated and if you lose focus and you can't concentrate. I can remember a game, actually. I think I've been spoken to you about this once. I remember a game in I think it was 2002. I think it was 2002. Against the West Indies in Bombay. I think we were playing in October. Right? It was really hot. And I was sweating, and I was batting in that heat, and typically for me to score runs, I had to bat a long time, right? I wasn't Viru, right? I didn't have that gift of being able to smash the ball and score runs. I had to bat a long time. I knew that if I had to score runs means I had to bat, and that didn't really work well with my sweat, right? So it kind of was a double whammy. But then I remember this game against the West Indies, and we were batting, and I actually almost can't even remember the last 15, 20 runs I scored. I was so dehydrated. I remember getting to about 80, and I remember but I was just so desperate to just keep batting and wanting to fight through it. But I think almost to a dangerous level, right? Because I almost remember feeling real giddy. And anyway, I get to about 90, I get to 98.
Okay.
I'm batting on 98, and I'm batting with Parthiv Patel. And I cut one ball from the leg spinner, and it was going to the boundary, and I thought, it's gone to the boundary. But I just didn't have the energy, and I hit it. I just didn't cut it hard enough that the ball was sort of dribbling, and it didn't reach the boundary. And I went to the other side, and I reached one run, and I just sort of kind of collapsed, and just didn't have just almost fell down. And I heard Parthiv from there say, "Rahul bhai, bhago, pahcha nahi hai, and I turned around and just somehow got myself and just collapsed on the line, right? Just collapsed. And had to be taken off and straight into a drip and stretchered off the ground. And I went into a drip and, had to get into that sort of IV solution. And so I always thank Parthiv that he gave me that 100, right? Because if he hadn't shouted, I had just given up, and I would have just collapsed there, and I had to be taken off because I was cramping so much, and I was, in such agony. I'm very thankful to Parthiv for giving me that one more 100.
Well, there you go. That's a great story.
Otherwise, I would have been 99 not out. but yeah, and it's not the first time. I think there were 3 or 4 occasions in my career where I had to be taken off the ground, and I was so dehydrated that I had to put drips while I was in the dressing room. Yeah. So yeah, it was a constant bit of an issue for me at times, but I think with better management now and better understanding of these things, I was much better able to handle it.
So wasn't there also this product which was then called RD?
Yeah. No. So I think what we did was I got this kind of mixture, which was a bit of a variation on the normal carbolite that they were making.
Right.
I think we put a little bit more of some, potassium, or I'm not exactly sure what the combination was.
Right.
So I then just requested them to make it. So I think they used to make that product for me. It was called Carbolite, and then they had the normal Carbolite, and then they would make one called the Carbolite RD, and give it to me, and supply it and I would use it. And then a lot of other people started kind of using it and, in the team. And I think it started getting used in the team and stuff. But a part of the trick was obviously the combination, which was was fine. But the main thing was just ensuring that you diluted it actually enough.
Yeah.
I think there was so much of sugar because obviously from a taste perspective to market it, a lot of these things need to be marketed and they need to sell, right? And I mean, they weren't giving me enough quantities to, I think, make a business of it.
Yeah.
That to make a business of it, you're probably using too much sugar. So I think that the simple advice was if just double the amount of water there is, it'll dilute the sugar. It'll ensure that your stomach isn't full with the sugar and you'll be able to drink more. Right? Otherwise, your belly would just get full with the sugar and you're not able to drink enough fluid anymore. So it was just small things like that. I think small hacks like that tended to make a difference.
Fantastic. So you've actually taken a lot of initiative in finding solutions to your problems right from the start.
Yeah, I did. I did. I was just curiosity. I think that's been one of the things. I'm pretty curious about everything. So I used to read. I used to come up the random articles you're coming up against. You're seeing these things. Even in the fitness and the physio side of things, I think I've asked questions of all the fitness trainers and the physios that I've worked with. Constantly just trying to understand, right? Especially when I was playing. I think much more when I was playing. Of course, as a coach, right, you do it still now, and you're still kind of because you're interested in the performance of other people. So you're still curious about things, and you're still keen to kind of learn things about what might affect their performances. But when I was playing, I think I always had that desire to just, constantly look at solutions and problems and how do we do this better? How can we do that better? It just felt fun. It just felt like a fun way of doing it. It didn't seem like a chore. I mean, to be very honest, like people say, but I just loved it. I just enjoyed doing that. I kind of was curious and I wanted to always, know things. I just wanted to know things. I wanted to understand things and meet interesting people, right? I mean, going and meeting Graham Bates and seeing what they do in the University of Perth, the Science Center, and just fascinating, right? I mean, it's fascinating, and when I was playing, I was able to go to like football clubs like Chelsea and build contacts there, and in those days, and see what they were doing, and in terms of whether it was mental side of things or whether it was, they're just fascinated by stuff. I mean, I remember reading Abhinav Bindra's book on him winning the shorter history and learning how he used the mental side of things, and that fascinated me as well. And I've had conversations with Abhinav a lot around the mental side of things, and just to understand what he did, and been connected with him through people he worked with, and seen whether that has any correlation to cricket. A lot of the things I went through ended up going through sometimes rabbit holes or ending up a dead end, and a lot of these things, right? You go down paths and you realize they don't translate into cricket.
Yeah.
They don't translate into cricket.
Right.
But the process of going down these things is actually good fun. Right. You just learn a lot of things, and it's just interesting. I think that's the thing, right? It's just interesting.
So I've seen you as a player, I've seen you as a coach, as an administrator, and I can tell you there has been no tapering off of that curiosity that I see. I think you still continue to add to your knowledge base, and which is very
Which is the fun part of it, I think. I think that's the fun part. I think life's given me the opportunity and experience. It gives me a life now as a coach. So I think I've been grateful to be able to, I think make something that was a hobby for me, right? My cricket was a real hobby, and I was able to then make it my profession for a long time, and I still have been lucky enough that people are still giving me the opportunity to stay involved in the sport, right? And I think so that's great, right? And then it just allows me to then keep, whatever I'm doing, just trying to see if I can be more curious and get better, or help other people get better, and just improve your knowledge base. So that's half the fun, right? It's
of course.
More than half the fun, actually, to be honest. Because the results, you win some, you lose some, you feel happy. When you get disappointed, when you lose, it's all okay. But one thing you realize is so many of those wins and losses. Of course you've played a part, but a lot of it is also beyond your control. And I think you've got to be a bit realistic about how much you actually do control, especially after you're playing. And but the fun part is in the process, right? In the learning, and it's fun.
So, your cramps were one big part of just kind of revisiting your, your health or your fitness through your career. But apart from cramps, were there any major injuries that affected you through your career?
No, I was actually very lucky, Ashish. I think I was very lucky through my career that I didn't have any major injuries. I had a slap lesion through my shoulder. In
When
fact,
was
right,
that?
I think I've had it. I had the slap lesion right from 96, 97. I remember, doing it in a particular throw and having the pain.
Okay.
But kind of it being really diagnosed only in 2000. I think in South Africa, I did a couple of MRIs. In the old days, they had the dye MRI.
Yes.
They'd put you the dye through, and then
Yes.
yeah, and then that actually showed up the slight tear. And I got a couple of differing opinions. I got opinion one. In those days, surgery was a very common option of the shoulder, and I think they just made do surgery. But because I wasn't a bowler, and there was another surgeon who advised me to do a conservative route and see if I could manage that.
Right.
And I did that, and I was able to play through the rest of my career for the next 10, 12 years without too much of an issue. I had to maintain that strength. I had to ensure that I actually looked after it really well, and it was fine through my career. Funnily enough, it's actually bothered me more after my career because I started throwing again as a coach, and I used the Wenger sometimes, and I just throw balls, and I struggled to do the required, the discipline of the fitness with it. There's so much on your plate as a player and as a professional. You're just focusing on that, and this is a very disciplined part of what you have to do to look after your career.
Right.
And you're doing it. You're doing all the TheraBand work. You're doing the strength work. You're going to the physio, getting it released. Getting all the stuff done. And you get lazy, right? I mean, you've done it all your life. You kind of think, no, do it now, and it's like painful, right? As a coach, if you're trying to get physio done, you're thinking it's a bit embarrassing, actually, honestly. As a coach, when you see yourself having to do physio, and the players are walking in, you think, oh, this is not a good look.
Sir, मैं बाद में आता हूँ. पहले आप करा
लो. But I think you realize as you get older, more you need it actually. So actually it's bothered me a little bit more lately when I've been coaching, because again I've been lazy, right? I don't throw for a long time, and then suddenly I'll throw when I get to have a break, and then again most of these things are, as you would know, is that if you're constantly doing them, as I would as a professional cricketer, they are fine. You give it 3 months off and then suddenly start throwing the huge spikes, then it plays up a little bit. So I have to be careful with it. But I was lucky. I think I had a few issues with my heel. I had a plantar fasciitis issues in my heel, a couple of injections for that. And then the normal ones, tennis elbow. I mean, you've batted as long as I have. You're gonna pick up the odd tennis elbows here and there. I think the rest of them were more wear and tear. I think of the usual wear and tears of stuff.
Overuse
Injuries, issues with the calves, issues. Just overuse stuff. Played up during my career. I was a lot luckier than I've been, I think, lately. Post.
Because I remember when you had this unfortunate calf injury recently, I remember always having picked up a little bit of tension in that calf.
Yeah.
So that had, and then like you said, it had been kind of managed and maintained.
Right.
And then more recently, I think,
correct.
It's then.
Yeah, you're right, actually. And on reflection, actually, I was thinking about it, like you said, in my left calf was always something that would play up first, right?
Yes.
And you guys would look after it and treat it. And, I remember, like, if I started training after a long time, my left calf would play up a little bit, and then I'd give it a little settle down, and then it'd be fine.
Yes.
And then obviously now I hadn't done a lot of work on the calf. I didn't need to, it's not a occupational sort of some requirement. And then I tried to play this cricket match, with my son, and ended up, blowing up my Achilles, which was painful and tough, and a hard injury to have at this stage in my kind of career, especially the physio and the rehab required with an Achilles injury. But then, interestingly enough, like doing the MSK, sort of scanning, the radiologist told me that I have this kind of tendinopathy in both my calves, but it's just, and I guess that would be natural for anyone who played the amount I played, right? Anyone who scanned would have that. Doesn't mean all of them end up with an Achilles tendon tear. But yeah, a good lesson, I think, for me that, like, I think if you want to play sports like cricket and you want to do stuff even later on in life, you got to ensure that you are fit for it and ready for it, and that and I think just gym fitness or just walking fitness is very different to fitness for sport fitness. I think that's the mistake. So I've relatively tried to keep myself quite fit, right? By going to the gym on and off,
fit,
and going to the gym. I go to the gym on and off. When I'm lucky, I'm with the team. I'm able to go to the gym. I'm able to do a bit of walking and cycling and that kind of thing. But I hadn't played cricket for a long time, and that requires a completely different level of power and fitness, where your body just hasn't had the level of, I think, hasn't been looked after well enough to be able to do that. And that's true. A lot of people, I think, like the doctors and surgeons have told me, they've quite a common injury of people who in their 50s suddenly take up things like pickle and paddle, and that's the new famous popular things to do. But you actually don't have, you might be fit and gym fit, but you're not really sport fit. And I think those two distinctions are important, which I've realized painfully.
This is such an important message, Rahul, because one of the reasons when one of the key documents that we set up when we were setting up yours was you might pick up a sport to get fit, but are you fit for the sport?
Absolutely,
right. And what you've said exactly that it's you might be fit, reasonably fit, for function, for your activities of daily living, as we call them, but then when you pick up a sport, that sport will require for your body to go through certain stresses and strains, and then are you fit enough for that?
And I think you would be able to better answer this question than me, is that if you're actually playing that sport all through, like if I had continued to play cricket even after I'd retired and just kept playing recreationally for a while, I probably might have been fine. But the gap that I took, right, I think, so I've seen, like, I know people well into their 50s who play sometimes sports like badminton, right? I have friends who are regular badminton players. They were good badminton players as youngsters, but they've continued to play badminton 2 or 3 times a week and they're fine. But there are other people who they might suddenly invite who've not played the sport for 5, 6, 7 years. And then when they play, they end up getting injured or things like that, right? So I think those gaps, I think, are the ones that are the problem as well, right? Is it?
But yeah, absolutely. So this is also the in a fancy way, it's put out as a concept of acute to chronic workload ratios, and you've dealt with that, as a coach enough. Is also applicable on anybody.
Right.
If you've not done something in a long time, then your chronic workload is, say, here. And then one day you decide to play pickle, paddle, football, badminton, and suddenly you bump it up to here. Your body's not going to like it at all. The body doesn't like shocks.
Correct. And we're competitive, right? You're going to be competitive. Once you get into it, it's hard not, when you see a ball there, you are going to go for it. You're going to stretch out for it. It's tough. And however much you might want to be careful, it's in the moment. And all it takes is a moment.
It's reflex, right? You reflexly go for it.
And I realized that it's, but it was, I think it was tough going through the recovery, and I was again really lucky that I was also around. Again, I have access to really good physios like yourselves, and at Rajasthan Royals when I was there with the team, we had Neeru, who you know really well, and Craig was there, and John Gloucester, and guys you know really well. So I had access to really high class, top class professionals, and I'm lucky in that sense because of being in sport. I have access to these professionals, but it's still a long, laborious process, right? It really requires discipline and patience and to go through that. So it's tougher, I think, when it's your profession. I think it's easier to do. When it's not, then it's tough. And I have a huge sympathy for people who go through injuries later on in their lives. And, I can imagine. And I'm, of course, like quite keen to get back to a level where I want to get back to a level of functionality that is important to me. And I know that probably not going to be playing too much sport again. Well, I might. But I want to. So I want to rehab well. I want to go through the whole physiotherapy process well. I think you can neglect that, and I think that's something that, again, as you would know, can bite you back, right? Not going through the whole process. Saying, okay, I'm functioning fine, and going through that, and then. So I'm. Let's see. Let's hope I can. Have the discipline and the patience to go through the whole process and get out of the other side.
No, so you can hobble back to normalcy, but that normalcy, the day it gets challenged through a sport, it is quite likely that it lets you down. But what you're saying in effect is also that if you were to be patient with the process and if you were to persevere,
Right.
then you do get back to, through
Correct.
the knowledge and the understanding that we have
Yeah.
of how to manage these injuries now, right?
If I can ask you, Ashish, I mean, it's like in terms of what are the changes you've seen, right? You've been around a really, really long time now. In terms
Thanks
of
for making me feel old.
we're all old.
Yeah.
But no, I just be interested to see from your perspective, what is the change in mindset you've seen around sports science, sports medicine? Obviously in the professional sports side of things, but also outside of that now that, obviously with yours and these things that you've kind of had that unique perspective of looking at it from obviously being in a really high performance sporting environment, but also being outside of that and seeing it in a general perception, general public and things.
So I was very lucky to have those formative years of my profession in the UK, where a lot of research was being done on musculoskeletal health in sports science, and then being a part of the professional circuit there. And when I first came here, I think things were just about taking off.
Right.
But since then, things have definitely improved a lot. So one of the things that I get very excited about is that a lot of data is being collected.
Right.
So everything is more objective as opposed to before, kind of assuming things and taking that clinical reasoning through assumptions that and deductions, as we call them, clinical deductions. Now you see evidence for everything. Right. So the imaging is a lot better. The imaging has become a lot more convenient with the musculoskeletal ultrasounds that have come in.
Right.
On sports science side of things, there's a measure on everything. You can measure power, you can measure asymmetries, you can measure strength, you can measure a whole lot of things which before you just have to eyeball. So I think those measurements, those hardcore numbers, those numbers have given us a lot of power to design things which are very specific to an individual.
Right.
And I think that's where we're headed.
So the data is not taking away your creativity or your ability to. So it's still not taking away the creativity or how can I put it, the ability to. The word?
The intuitive kind of approach towards healthcare
so
and
to be able to pick up what's the word here? When you see a patient and how can I forget it?
Clinical diagnosis.
Yeah, yes, a diagnosis. Assessment.
Diagnosis,
your assessment of
it can. Yeah. It can. You can jump the gun in ordering MRIs and ultrasound scans and you can do that. That's a danger for sure. I think that's very well picked. But if used wisely, like any other tool, if you had solid fundamentals and you are fundamentally a strong clinician, then all these things are godsend.
Right.
They're godsend. They're just so fantastic to have these tools around you.
Yeah, so it doesn't take away from the fact that you still have to be a really good clinician and then you use these as accessories.
Yeah.
So
and also I think this debate has only just started. So just with AI in healthcare, I think we've also been trying to play around with it, and we've been doing these interesting experiments where, at of course, just the clinic level, where we ask a senior clinician to write a program, and with the same amount of information, ask the AI model to write a program.
Right.
Scarily similar.
Yeah.
Scarily similar.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And also, it gives you the reasoning for it.
Right.
And breaks it down to the T in how even so. The one thing that I used to, talk to people who get excited about technology, and I don't get very easily excited about technology beyond what's under my control, and it's probably
you're showing your age again.
Yeah.
When we say these things, we show our age.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get excited. Exactly. Our children are very different.
We'll edit this. So it's also the fear of being replaced, right? It's also the fear of no, I can touch and feel, and how would a computer do it, or how would an algorithm do it, or how would artificial intelligence do it? It doesn't touch and feel. But it also then so there are mobilizations that we do, joint mobilizations, and they are graded.
Right. Okay.
The reasoning that it gave for even those mobilizations to be of certain grades was unbelievable. It was so accurate.
Right. Yeah.
So
it is phenomenal. I mean, we're seeing that even in all fields, right? Even in coaching, even in data analysis, and how we prepare for games. And I think it's just going to be a part of life. I think we're going to just try to find a way to, you know.
So where I am very excited about it is, as an entrepreneur, one of the objectives was to take the ideal healthcare solution out to anybody, to true democratization of musculoskeletal health, which is kind of our mission.
Right.
And then this is really a tool
That
which
might,
will make it possible.
No, that's true, and I think that's what you say, and I think that's been one of the things that I have also. I wouldn't say it's a it is in some ways, is that I have seen a real quality of healthcare, right, of sports science that I have been privileged to have seen, right, and I've seen that grow, right, from the days of my early days of 1996 to what it is today, and I've seen the access and the support that elite level athletes get, but that is so few in number, right? That is so few in number. And then if you think about the number of boys and girls playing not only cricket but just different sports in this country, and how much they could benefit from actually this knowledge that is actually available, and it's all there, but it's just prohibitive in terms of the resources, the manpower, the finances, and if you know, in the end, all of us want that this should be available to everyone, right? I think it should be, you know, that level of, maybe may not be that level of care, but certainly not, you know, certainly slightly a decent level of care should be available to every young boy and girl who's playing any sport in any part of the country, right? And I think that could be a great game changer in this country, right? I think we're already seeing, like, people talk about, oh, Indian team has great fast bowlers and great, you know, fantastic fast bowlers. We've always had talent, right? I think one of the big changes I'm seeing is just the care, the processes that how we look after our fast bowlers, how this fitness, the strength training that we are able to give them, the rehab, the prehab, you know, some of these guys, as you would know, and you have rehabbed so many of them from the injuries that 2 decades ago would have been career
written off.
They're written off.
We don't write athletes off anymore. There's always an opportunity for them to get back.
But now we're talking really about only the elite ones, right? So I mean, just imagine if this can go down to a lot more people. That's when you'll really be able to maximize the potential and talent of, you know, I think, of this country, really. So so well done on that, and hopefully you guys can try and democratize the thing, MSK, as you put it, and
thank you.
Yeah, it should be an interesting journey.
No, also, you know, personally, you know, as well as professionally, we're extremely passionate about the fact that your top athlete who has a shot at that medal in the Olympics will only be a subset of the society.
Right.
So as a society, we need to be strong and fast and have all those physical attributes that are required of a sports person.
Correct.
And we all do that. Then that will throw up one person who does it better than anybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that whole society, so the nation needs to, in a kind of philosophical manner, the nation needs to get stronger and better for that one person to excel.
Absolutely.
And I think,
and that's true. Like, I mean, you see the US, right? The amount of medals they win.
Yeah.
It's a large part of that is that, right? I mean, just the kind of research, the kind of sports science, fitness, strength training, coaching that happens at even the collegiate level, and the kind of resources. That's just throwing up these athletes, right? That's just throwing up. So we are nowhere close to that. And so, I mean, I think, you know, and you're absolutely right. And unless you build that base and that foundation, and then just allow that to throw out the subsets, it will do that. And I think in some ways cricket has been fortunate, right? Because cricket has built that base.
Exactly.
Through the
number of people playing
the game, the number of tournaments there are, the number of people watching the game, the number of people identifying talent right at the grassroots level. So there is a certain foundation. That just keeps throwing up these champions every year, right?
Correct.
One goes, another one comes. It's phenomenal. And I think, you know, I think that it's got to be true of all sport, I think, if we can get the whole subset.
It's the volume of it, right? I mean, I realized when I was in the BCCI, some of the numbers you don't realize from outside. I think BCCI organizes some 2,000 odd matches every year. So 2,000 matches, a number of participants. These are top level, and I'm sure there's, you know,
absolutely
not even counting your club levels and everything else. These are your BCCI organized events.
Correct.
2,000 plus, right? Is that
around 2,000? Yes, they were around 2,000. So you're right, absolutely. And then that's just the top level. So feeding into that 2,000 is countless number of games, right? So I mean, I think that's the key.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see kind of your Mumbai marathons getting more popular and your Ironman's getting more popular and your pickle pad, anything that gets you out there, anything
Yeah.
that gets you to have an active lifestyle
Right.
is something that's gonna get picked up by your kids, and hopefully they get more active, and then
Yeah.
and that hopefully that's a culture change, I guess.
Yeah.
That
And I think we also have unique problems in India in terms of, unfortunately, like from what little bit I've seen is just the infrastructure, right? It's very difficult to in the cities, the way they're growing and the kind of built up areas in the cities and how they've grown. The thing that is shrinking is playgrounds, right? Open fields, playgrounds.
Correct.
And those are the things that are really shrinking. Even schools today, right? And none of them have the kind of big grounds that we grew up in. Very few have those.
Those maidans are
because the class, because you just more kids, more students, more classrooms, more buildings, right? And so the pitch, the thing that gets eaten up eventually is the grounds, and I think that's really sad, actually. But I think that's going to happen because I think people have to find solutions around that.
Yeah. True. I'll just go back because I wanted to link it all in my head and just ask you this question with that shoulder problem. So absolutely, the diagnosis of labral tears, forget. Then even now, we see so many coming to us with undiagnosed, poorly diagnosed, overdiagnosed, underdiagnosed labral tears. Right. The solution to a labral tear has changed drastically from being very pro-surgery to now having a much more balanced approach where you see where it is it really challenging the stability of the shoulder, and if that's the case, can it still be managed through the musculature around it, and then you take a call in conjunction with the surgeon. And in a lot of situations, I think at one point we were looking at the squad of Indian team, and of the 15, I think 10 or 11 actually were carrying a slap tear, but well managed and with no restrictions whatsoever.
Right.
With you in obviously you were at the time where these things were still getting known. Did that then also kind of encourage you to be a slip fielder?
I was always a slip fielder for Karnataka.
Right.
I was there. What encouraged me most to be a slip fielder was firstly I mostly loved, I wasn't going to bowl anymore.
Right.
And I thought that, by taking catches, it still kept me involved in the game.
Right.
It allowed.
It took a lot of them.
But it was I always enjoyed taking catches because I felt that you got to share that with your team. Like wicket falls, everyone comes together. Bowler, you're part of someone else's success as well, right? So it was a nice, fun part of being a good slip fielder, and it kind of motivated me in some ways to really work hard on my slip catching. And the other thing was that for the first 3-4 years of my international career, I was doing silly point and short leg, right, with the helmet under that. So then I quickly realized that I better become a good slip fielder if I want to get out of there. Right. And so that is a very good motivating factor at times. Right. Standing under that helmet and then going out to bat wasn't always great fun. So no, I just loved slip fielding. I had nothing to do particularly with my shoulder. I didn't. Like you said, once my shoulder was managed, as in I
then
managed
there was no restrictions.
There was no restrictions. I could throw, and I didn't have a throw like Ravindra Jadeja, but who has a throw like Ravindra Jadeja?
Nobody.
Right? It's not.
And Ravindra Jadeja has his slap lesions which are very well managed.
Yeah,
but
and he has no issues with them.
He has no issues with them.
Yeah, and so we are. I didn't really have any restrictions throwing, as long as I managed it well, as long as I looked after it well. So you're right. That's one thing I've noticed actually, that this how 180 degrees the treatment to slap lesions has gone from actually being very aggressive about surgery and people saying that that's one you can't heal and it'll never heal, and to now saying you can manage it with a lot of strength and conditioning, and as long as you're depending on the role you're playing, it can be managed. So again, it's a good thing, right? Anytime you can avoid surgery, it's a great thing for a professional athlete, right? Because it's 6 to 8 months out of a career. And that's, I was told at that point that it would be 6 months. And two of my friends and colleagues, Srinath and Anil, both had labral tears and both had to have surgery because they were bowlers. And I saw the amount of time that it took for them to rehab and, come out of that. And, it was a long time, and I was lucky I didn't have to do that.
Yeah. No, also, I think India generally, just within cricket, I think we've got more than our fair share of labral tears.
Right.
And I think
I think that's just a nature, that's a occupational hazard of the sport that we play. just amount of
No,
throwing
even within
that,
cricket, Rahul.
right? Okay.
Even within cricket, and I think one of the reasons perhaps could be, again, there's no evidence for it, but it's just just empirical, is that with our throwing or with everything pretty much, we're more skill based, right? So even our throwing, actually, the hip drive required to throw can sometimes not be there,
Correct.
or not be there as much.
Yeah.
So we end up then using the shoulder more than what it's designed for. So your shoulder's not designed to generate power.
Correct.
It's designed to guide the power that you've generated off the ground through your lower body, and then through the hips, core, and then the shoulder.
Yeah.
But then if you were to lose it somewhere or not generate it enough, then you end up producing it from the shoulder, and that's not something that works very well.
Again, it's improving, but again, I think just the technique of throwing, like things like this, right?
Correct.
Now, things like this where I didn't even know about this stuff until I played for India, or much after I played for India. Today, because of National Cricket Academies or the COE or whatever it's called, and camps and more awareness, coaching, again, data and things like what you've just said. Maybe kids at a slightly younger age are getting exposed to it. So at least they're able to, manage it from a younger age. But having said that, it still doesn't reach. I think still the quality of, coaching and shoulder care and, things like that, it doesn't percolate all the way down. And then if you picked up this injury, then it's, once you have the injury, then it's very hard, right? Then it's very hard to change that. It's there, then you're just managing it.
Correct.
Basically, the idea should be to prevent it from actually happening.
Correct.
And sometimes by the time we only realize about what we need to do to prevent it is after we've had it. And because, there's not enough knowledge at the grassroots level or at the junior levels where people don't know the right technique of throwing. Correct. So they're throwing, they don't understand this concept ki 3 महीने एग्जाम के लिए छुट्टी लिया, फिर आके सीधा 2 दिन में fielding practice से throw किया, and you'll pick up an injury, right? And nobody is telling you, there's no guidance. So those kind of things I think are still kind of missing, and hopefully through things like this and through knowledge, people get to understand some of it.
So interesting that Rahul, you spoke about which is almost like a quantum leap from where we were in understanding and implementing a lot of sports science, sports med principles, and I think one of the areas that has really been worked upon a lot is regenerative therapy. So which started off as a very simple kind of freshening the articular surfaces, or say if there's an injury which has stopped healing, or wear and tear has set in, like you had said, a lot of your injuries are wear and tear. So that wear and tear was left as it is, and then they thought, okay, can we get it to start healing on its own. So they started with just putting fresh blood injections. That then they started taking those parts of that fresh blood which was promoting healing or encouraging healing. And that process has gotten refined over time to now an extent where we have found ways, or the sports med teams have found ways, and we do a lot of them at yours, is that you inject the joint, and a lot of times also the soft tissues, the tendons around them, to encourage them to heal from within.
Okay.
So that's a very, very interesting area. Now, of course, the evidence is still not that strong, but now a lot of stem cell is also being explored for that. I know of a couple of practitioners who are now also deriving stem cells from your fat tissue, without having to get into the bone marrow edema. The bone marrow itself. Without having to get into the bone marrow, they are being able to derive these stem cells from your fat tissue. So a lot of interesting stuff happening.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think just the progress in I think medical science, this whole, I don't know, whatever century, or even like in sports science over the last decade, because it's happened slowly. We take it for granted, but the reality is it's been phenomenal. Actually.
It's been fantastic. Okay, great. So, X-ray round. No machines, no radiations.
Okay.
It's just pointed questions.
Okay.
Not so pointed, actually. And I will take the help of my card here. And the first question is, I will say, a few medical or physio terms,
Okay.
and knowing your vast knowledge base and the knowledge that you've accumulated over time, I'm sure you will know what is a sprain.
What is a sprain?
Yeah.
Sprain is when you kind of twist something, right? A joint.
An injury of?
An injury, ankle sprain or of
Yeah.
a joint, right? A joint of the ligaments that
Perfect.
ligaments
Perfect.
that protect the
Perfect.
joint.
You can leave it there.
Yeah.
so,
Thank God. I gave up biology after 10th. Ashish,
No,
please.
but you've nailed it. So a sprain, a sprain is actually an injury of a ligament. Interestingly, a very similar sounding term is a strain, which is then an injury of a tendon or a muscle tissue.
Tendon strains and stuff.
And that's how you kind of sprains and strains. Yeah. Well done. Isometric holds.
Isometric holds. When I think of isometric holds, I always think of this machine in NCA. What's it called? The
Primus.
Primus machine. I've used the Primus a lot here. Yeah. And there's isometric hold. So pressure, right? Against gravity.
Yeah.
No.
So pushing against an external force, but there mustn't be any movement.
Okay. Yeah,
Can you think of an exercise that does isometric holds?
My shoulder, right? I think when you have to push
you were doing that.
Yeah, the holding.
Planks?
The planks, yeah. Planks are good.
Planks are good. Well done. Fantastic.
Not bad.
Yeah, so 2 on 2 there. What is foam rolling?
Pain in the neck, but I mean, I think so that's something new that's obviously started, right?
Those
recently.
foam rollers.
Yeah. And then when you're basically using it as in a way to lengthen or stretch out the muscle while rolling it.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. I mean,
you've done a lot of them, right?
I luckily they came after I retired. So I've tried to do a few of them now as a coach at times, actually, more than I've done as a player, because they weren't around when we were players. No. I can't remember early 2000s. No,
I think they came in. Yeah,
much later. Yeah, so these things keep coming in, right, as fads and new things that are really fancy. So our time, the big thing was TheraBands. I think the bands came in a lot. Yeah. All of us were doing a lot of these.
But soft tissue release, you guys would have used something for soft tissue release, right?
We had the physios to do it.
Correct.
The physios discovered foam rolling, so that now they say you do this. We don't need to use
offloaded their work.
Offloaded. Now there are guns and all these guns, and I see people using those guns and So there are different ways of I think physios and massios realizing that their fingers can only last so long. They you get arthritis. I've known physios, who's had that issue.
So I can only do maybe 2 or 3 mobilizations in a day now before my thumb flares up.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
occupational hazards. I'll probably try some regenerative therapy for my thumbs. But yeah, so but you've not done much of it.
Not too much of foam rolling. I don't think.
Yeah, they're around. They're interesting ones. Well done. Okay, so I've got some pictures here.
Okay.
And if you pick one, and let's see, pick one first, and then let's see what you
these
know
three.
About.
One of these three. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see.
Oh, who's that?
Okay.
Who's that? Oh,
that's
you and your friend Laxman.
Yeah, this is a pretty. It's a photo that brings back good memories. I mean, if I tell people if I get asked about this day, if I got 1 rupee for every time I got asked about this day, I wouldn't actually have to do any work for a long time. But no, I think great memories. Yeah, I think it's firstly to be able to bat a full day against Australia, have a part in turning the test match around, be at the other end to watch, I think one of the greatest innings ever played. And then to, do it with a friend, a guy who I've played under 19 cricket with and junior cricket with and spent a lot of time together. So that was great. It was great fun. It was just a, terrific day to be a part of.
So when you are so close and I know you are close as friends and you played so much together, when you look at the other person and the setup of batting technically, Would you then sometimes think, how are they standing and how am I standing and how are they holding the bat? Now am I holding the bat? Is that something that, and then kind of draw from it also? Does that ever happen or not really?
Well, I think it happened. I mean, I don't think you were copying them, but you're certainly learning things from them, right? I mean, and not only Laxman, but like I think of like for me the privilege of, and I think there's no doubt that it made my game a better game, sharing a dressing room and partnerships with the likes of Sachin Tendulkar and Virendra Sehwag and Saurav Ganguly and Lakshman and Gautam for a while, Gambhir, just you are just learning from these guys, right? You're watching them prepare, you're watching them play certain shots, you're watching how they go about doing certain things, and you are picking up stuff, right? You're learning and you're being challenged and pushed by them as well, right?
Yes.
You are I think that's what you want, right? You want to be in environments where you're challenged and pushed, and if you have that kind of, firstly, you want to earn their respect.
Yes.
Right? You want to earn Tendulkar's respect, you want to earn Lakshman's respect or Ganguly's respect. You want them to say, yeah, this guy can also play. He deserves to be in this room with me. Right? You want to earn that. And that comes with performance, right? That comes with doing things. That comes with putting runs on the board or performing or playing difficult. So you wanted to earn that. So that in itself was a motivation. And then you learned from these guys, you picked up stuff from them, they understood you, they understood your game, so you have conversations with them, you're chatting with these guys. So there's no doubt in my mind at least that, all of them made me a better player than I was and had helped me achieve my potential. And I hope I did a bit of that for them as well.
So is that, I mean, that's so beautiful to hear, because that's the approach of sharing the room with the greats when you've done so much yourself and you are one of those greats, but there was more than competition. You start from respect, and that's just a fantastic.
I mean, you are teammates, right? So you have a common goal, and in some ways, in a healthy way, you are also competing with each other, right? Your teammates, you're competing with each other in a healthy manner. You're trying to achieve things. And you're trying to earn these guys respect, and respect is important. At least it was for me.
Are you so in terms of the actual setup, is there, whose setup did you admire the most and you thought, oh, that looks pretty solid, and whilst like you said, not wanting to copy that, but think that looks like a really good setup.
Growing up as a kid, Sunil Gavaskar was a big. I was a big fan of Sunil Gavaskar and G.R. Vishwanathan. They were the big heroes in my time.
Are you able to show us those setups?
To that sense, I'm not sure my leg is great enough. Huh?
Just the way they set up and just the way you set up?
I could. Maybe,
can you give it a try?
Yeah, let's see. Okay, we can have a go. I'm not sure this is going to work, but yeah, I think Gavaskar was much shorter, right? I think he had great balance.
Right.
So he was a beautifully balanced sort of player.
So can we do this here, Rahul?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I always remember, like, he always seemed so balanced, Mr. Gavaskar. He just there was a stillness to when he stood.
Right.
Which is what I loved and admired.
Right.
I mean, I was a bit taller, so I didn't really copy it or anything. I didn't copy anyone. I just stood in a way that made me feel comfortable. To be honest, I didn't try and.
And between him and Vishy, was there also a huge difference in their setups?
Yeah, slightly again, two shorter people. So Tendulkar again was very balanced, beautifully balanced. I think the shorter people obviously had that advantage of looking more balanced, right? Because the center of gravity is lower. So a lot of times that's what they say, right? That lots of the great batsmen over the years have been shorter people, right? Whether you look at, not that they haven't been great batsmen at all, but like you look at, Gavaskar or a Tendulkar or a Lara or a Ponting, Bradman, going back to Bradman. Yeah. All of these guys were quite shorter people. Yeah. But Kohli, shortish, you might not like being called short.
Yes. we will make sure Kohli listens to this.
But yeah, because I think if you are shorter as a batsman, you have that center of gravity. But again, then today, as the game is changing and evolving, it's becoming a lot about power and hitting sixes. Yeah. Then maybe power and reach of the taller guys is becoming an advantage in that form of the game. Just the guys who have that, like, look at these tall guys nowadays and they're sixes. Obviously,
Yeah.
like just physics will tell you
Yeah,
the taller you
the
are,
long levers,
longer
and
levers.
like
you have.
started from your KP, right? With
Right, yeah, with Kevin
the reach.
Peterson or
Yeah.
the Pollards, and look at the guys today, who are batting. So yeah, I think both has its kind of plus and minuses in both ways. And but yeah,
Thank you very much.
No, I didn't
No, it was,
particularly copy anyone. I don't think it was.
But I think you know what you speak about in terms of that stillness. A lot of people talk about that. That stillness or the appearance of stillness in the stance.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, of course, you cannot be like. I mean, I think a large part of it is also being able to have a calm mind, right? I think a lot of it is mental. One is the physical aspects is what you see, but I think the top players are able to also ensure that in the highest pressure situations, they're still able to not allow their mind to get in the way of performing, right? Because that's half the biggest problem, right? In the mental side of things is where you, it's your stress and your expectations and the pressure, and you let all of that get to actually physically being able to play the skill, right? I mean, the number of people that you see who can do something brilliantly in a net, but cannot execute it under pressure is a lot, and that's the key. I think the key thing is one is the physical element of it, but then it's the mental side of being able to execute these things under pressure.
And you've always maintained that, right? You've always said that that cricket is so much mental. Is that just cricket or any sport, or for that matter, any decision making?
I think it would be any sport. I obviously know cricket more than other sport, and I'm no expert in any other sport other than just being a follower of the sport. But I would think that a large part of sport is your ability to control your mind, your fears, so many things, right? There's so many things that can impact you from actually giving a good physical performance. And I think any sport would be that, right? There's a large part of it. So it's a combination of the two. I don't think you can say, I don't like people ask you, what's the percentage? Oh, is cricket 95% mental? And people, and I say, it's like, if you are to be at an elite level, you need both. You need the physical skills, you need the technical skills, and you need the mental skills. You can't decide which percentage, which is not. There's no, it's hard to give it a percent, or at least I can't give it a percentage as to what it is. But the recognition that all three things are really important.
So when you say that you're batting really well, batters, I think more than bowlers, talk about being in that zone.
Right.
What is that zone? Is that zone like an empty mind? Is that what is? How do you define that zone?
I mean, it's exactly like you said. It probably would be that, right? It's an empty mind wherein you're not letting thoughts get in the way of your performance.
But then how do you then work towards a target?
So you're in the moment, right? Basically, at that point when you're playing the ball, you have this real ability where you're just in the moment and you're not letting outside distractions distract you. You're still aware of what needs to be done,
right?
But you're not letting things that are not important are not distracting you from doing it. And I mean, we search for it all the time. I think that's the beauty, right? In your career, you feel that you're in the zone a few times, and then you spend the rest of your life trying to actually get it. I mean, and I guess I wish it was like an easy thing, or a button where you could press a button and every time you get into the zone. It just doesn't happen like that, unfortunately, right? It doesn't. And
so are you saying that you would have been in a zone just a few times in that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, like how many times?
I can't count. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
Even like you're in the zone sometimes for 5 overs in a game.
Right.
And then it goes off, and then some incident happens, then you lose it. Then a wicket, something can happen, right? You can be, it's like you can be in a zone for very short periods of times during an innings as well.
Yeah.
So, you can feel really at peace at times, and then that can go away very quickly.
So it's almost like a meditative kind of state.
It is in some ways if you can get into that state, but yeah, again, the thing is that what cricket's taught you is that you don't need to always be in that state to perform and do well.
Right.
You can do well when you're not in that as well.
Right.
I think that's also important to. Sometimes you've got to just learn how to fight your way through tough innings, tough situations. You know, you
Grind.
can't always have the perfect situation to play and do well, right? I think you got to make do with what situation you're in, or what's your frame of mind and what you're going through, and still have the bloody mindedness to say, yeah, try and get the job done.
Fantastic. Okay, so now we're going to do some rapid recovery questions. And I know a little bit about this, but it'll be nice for you to come out with it.
Okay.
How strong is your sweet tooth?
Very. That has been a big weakness, actually. Yeah, it's a weakness, I think, right from the time I'm a young kid. Yeah, so I've always had a sweet tooth, and it's been a constant battle of trying to find the right balance. And I think early on in my career, I didn't have an issue, actually, to be honest, because I could out-train, like I said, I could out-train my sweet tooth.
Yeah.
I could just train very hard. I always trained hard, and I was quite a hard trainer, so it was fine.
But did you think eating sweet was a problem back then?
Not really, actually. I don't think people thought of it.
Because that realization would have only come in a lot later, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The realization came in much later, and yeah, I mean, in those days they said, "Oh, you can eat whatever you want as long as you're training in fitness," and it was partly true as well, because I could.
Yeah.
But I think in my 30s, I realized that it was a bit difficult to do that, and I needed to ensure that I was a little bit more disciplined about my diet.
Right.
I can't say I ever gave up sweet completely,
right?
But I certainly was a lot more disciplined through my 30s and the later part of my career, and now I'm being forced to as well.
Yes,
unfortunately.
but and what's your favorite sweet?
Oh God, I could eat anything. I think ice cream would have to be it. I think some forms of ice cream would have to be it. Yeah.
A particular flavor that you like, or any ice cream is nice?
Any ice cream is nice. Yeah. I think the options today are, but the good old. I think you can't go wrong with the vanilla with hot chocolate sauce, right? I think this is the old favorite, the old solid one.
Yeah,
can't go wrong with that one.
Yes. Also, you've spoken, very freely about the kind of physical injuries that you've encountered through your career, and even later now with your calf. You also struggled a little bit with your thyroid at one point.
Yeah, a little bit. Just something that picked up later on and after my career. Just had an issue with. I started off with hypothyroidism.
Yeah.
Hyperthyroidism. And then I just needed to take some medication, and just on that medication.
So was that down to your lifestyle? Was that
I don't know, right?
Could you pin it down to anything?
Or? No, I couldn't pin it down to anything. I mean, I don't know what you can pin these things down to. I think Vijita's a doctor at home as well, so that
which is why I was asking.
She was the one who picked it up. I was losing a little bit of weight, and and she sort of picked it up and said, "I think you just need to get your thyroid checked." So it was a good thing I picked it up quite early, actually, thanks to her, and then we were able to quickly get on the medication and then deal with it over the last sort of, what has it been now, 10 years of my life. But yeah, it's manageable. It's maybe I don't know what the reason is. Yeah, these things are very hard to sometimes pin down and put a exact reason to.
Yeah, but the key is that got picked up in the right time, managed.
Yeah, managed.
You've been compliant.
Yeah, I've been compliant with it, and keep sort of managing.
As you are with everything.
Yeah, so there's no choice really in these things.
Okay, and so you keep yourself very fit. What's your
very is operative word. I'm relatively fit.
Well, I see you.
I wish I could be fitter, but
Well, whenever you're in Bangalore, I see you enough working out. So I'm assuming that you do it. That you do it fair.
I mean, we have a small gym at home, so I try and tick off the boxes as much as I can. I'd say that. And like I said, when I was with the team and stuff, it was easier as well, right? You're with the physios and there's the trainers, and so you're kind of doing some exercises. But I like I said, I think I'm more just training to stay fit. I don't think I was training to actually play sport or to play a sport. I think I was just training to stay fit and try and lose some weight. That's all.
What's your diet like? What kind of food?
Pretty simple. We have very sort of home cooked kind of food. Not very complicated. I've never been a big foodie, so to speak. I mean, I like food, and I mean, I've had the privilege of traveling the world, so I've experienced many cuisines. But I'm not a huge foodie. I love home food. We don't eat too much outside, so pretty simple. I try and it's for me the challenge is honestly is just to, if I can stay off the sweet, I'm doing pretty well. The rest of it I'm actually quite fine.
You don't have to have a certain kind of food, or in terms of
Not
the pleasure of eating and taste and all that.
no. I mean, I just enjoy eating at home. I think it's because I've eaten so much outside.
Yes.
I think the thing is
Right.
like, a lot of times I've
That's interesting,
spent
yeah.
so much of time outside that I've eaten so much of food in hotels and other places that actually sometimes just eating at home is great fun.
There's a lot, and rightly so. There is a lot of discussion about mental health, about across age groups, across genders. You know, what do you think? What's your kind of take on that?
No, firstly, I'm really glad that there's an awareness about it a lot more now. I think people are talking about it a lot more. I think in the past, in sportsmen, you were almost considered weak if you mentioned it or spoke about it.
Right.
And I'm really glad that, people are much more confident today about expressing that, about talking about it. Because, I think it is a real concern. I mean, it's such a high-paced life. It's such a, so much of time away from home, from family, from familiar comforts. You're being judged constantly. Almost feels like every day you have to perform. You're only as good as your last performance. So there's so many factors that go into leading a professional cricketer's lives, and I'm actually glad that people are a lot more open about it and happy to talk about the challenges that they're facing. Because unless you do that, firstly, it actually raises a lot of awareness. If people who are going through the same thing then can identify with that, can know that that's not only them, right? It's nothing wrong with them.
Correct.
But it's just the nature of what you do, and
there's no victimization around
exactly. And it can happen, right? It's like if somebody today has, I don't know, a calf strain, it's not like, there's a taboo around a calf strain or an injury, right? Because the physical injury, we accept it as part of the profession or what you do. And I think that same thing's got to happen with mental health and mental sort of illness in some ways, is that you've got to sometimes just be able to accept that is just the nature of sport, and people will get affected by it, and we just need to put safeguards in place, and we need to put support in place, just as we're doing with the physical side of things, for these people. And each one of them will need different kinds of support, right? Some people might be able to deal with it on their own. Some people might need more advanced support. Some people might need just someone to talk to. So I think just being aware of that, and then I think that awareness around that. Also, it'll, I think, encourage a lot more professionals in that field, right? I think that's again a field that I think needs to grow and develop. And I know that, of course, psychology and psychiatry has been around a long time, but in the general population, right? I think in sports specific stuff, I think, of course, there's a lot of work happening in that area as well, sports psychology. But I think the more and more we get research and data and professionals around the mental side of things, the mental health, mental wellness. I think one of the good things that's happened around a lot of this is this focus on wellness, and realizing that wellness is a huge part of it. It's not only mental health and sort of your performance, so to speak, performance mindset, but it's more about how you lead your life and the whole wellness aspect of it. I mean, that's a nice thing to see how that's sort of catching on, and the importance of that. Again, it kind of goes back to some of these old things that we heard from our parents and our grandparents, right? You sleep on time, you get up early, and you eat healthily and go out in the sun, and just simple things that I think which were age-old kind of sayings and traditions which were always there. I mean, we just get to hear a lot more of it in a just more fancier term now. Just put more fancily, that's it.
Through influencers.
It's put very fancily, but I'm glad. I mean, I think that it's good that it's there, it's out there, and people have access to it, to good support around it.
Yeah. And do you think there is actually it's also implementable on the society at large?
I think about it like simple things like the wellness and tough question. I mean, I'm not sure I've got the right answer for this one. But society at large, I think obviously there are different pulls and pressures, right? I think in society today, and everything has become like when we were talking about traffic earlier, right? I think if you're going to spend 1.5 hours in traffic going and coming from work, it's going to have some toll on you, right? Mentally,
Correct.
physically, surely,
Correct.
but mentally as well, right? Compared to 25 years ago, breezing the same distance in 20 minutes and getting back home to a family and having that 1 hour extra with the family rather than in a car, right? There's going to be it's got to be some level of mental effect on that. So I think a large part of how we deal with these things and how we manage these things is going to be important. I'm no expert on it. I don't really know the answers to these things, but I think the pressures on people today are a lot more than they ever were. Or maybe not. Again, I don't know, right? It's hard to quantify. Maybe the pressures on people were different in those days. I think pressure is pressure, right? Pressure to make a living was probably true 50 years ago and it's probably true today. Right. So, but it's different, I think. And again, I'm no expert to.
And you yourself, do you get frustrated? Do you get angry? And then how do you deal with that personally?
Be careful how I answer this one. I mean, of course,
do you get angry? Do you get angry?
Yeah, no, I mean, I do at times, not very much. I must admit, not very much. I'm able to manage that quite well. Naturally, I guess as well, I don't get very angry. But I think, good support from the family, right? I think the worst side of you always comes out with people that you are the most comfortable with, right? And you can let yourself down and be your most crankiest and your most the worst version of yourself at times with the people that you should actually be your best version of. But yeah, I think just having that support from the family and them understanding the pressures you're going through has been really helpful, and I'm grateful for that. I think for me especially, I think in the profession that I've led, I've been away from home so much. I've been out a lot, and like Vijita has had to, in some ways, single parent a lot with those kids and bring them up and allow me to do what I do. So I've been very grateful for that.
Fantastic. It's always the family.
I think it makes a big difference, right? I think it does.
What's the recovery from anything, physical, mental, emotional? What's the recovery mantra for you? I know you've spoken a lot about the importance of family, the importance of good habits. You're growing up, your culture. What's if you were to pass a message on to the viewers?
Again, I can't pass I actually don't believe that my solution might be just my solution, right? I can't be someone who's saying, oh, do this and it'll solve your problems, right? I think we're all very unique and very different that way. I think I can say what's worked for me. I think I can't say that this is a solution. But I can say that, I think things like meditation have definitely worked for me. I think throughout my career, it's meditation is something that I did quite a bit. It's something that worked for me. I know I've suggested this to people and people have told me it doesn't work for me, and that's fair enough, right? People find different ways to relax and recover and do their thing. For me, meditation was quite a good thing of just being able to, meditate for short periods of time. Found that not so much from a cricket, just as a life skill, right? Just as a life thing to just be more calm and more relaxed. I've always enjoyed reading, so I found reading was a good thing for me to be able to keep my mind away from cricket. I found that when I was watching something on the screen, I could still be thinking about cricket, but when I was reading, somehow I couldn't be thinking about the cricket. I don't know, for me that. So for me, reading seemed to help quite a lot. Again, the usual things, listening to music, nature's been a big thing for us, and I'm lucky, the family loves that. And so for us, our big holidays are we love going to the forest here in Karnataka and Kabini and Bandipur and around here in the Nilgiri biosphere. So we'll always do that as a family, and I've always enjoyed that. I've always enjoyed being out in nature and sort of so even on tours, being able to just walk around the gardens and parks and on my own and just, has been pretty relaxing thing to do for me. So you find things, you define different hacks, and each one, it's got to work for everyone, for each individual person. But they're important. I think the bottom line is that ability to find something that works for you is really important.
Yeah. Thank you. No, that's great. Well, you've been given nicknames. You're one of some of your old teammates still like calling you Jam.
Jam, yeah. Again, like Jammy happened because my father used to work at Kisan Products Limited. The company that made juice and jams.
I remember.
So it's typical, right? When you're growing up, people ask you, "What does your dad do?" And you ask your son, like, "Yeah, my father works for Kisan. He makes juice and jam." So it kind of it was actually started off being called Juice Jam or something, and then slowly it got called Jam, and the Jammy was what I was called for a while.
Right.
It's a bit unnerving when people at the airport suddenly who don't know you say Jammy. You don't know me that well. Maybe but I like Rahul. And but that was one that guys, my junior guys, sort of Srinath kind of started that off, and that's what I was called for a while, and then over the years people have said Wall and
the Wall. Wall. How did that come about?
I don't know. That was, I think, just some clever person on some desk somewhere, just after some slow stonewalling innings of mine, maybe where I block every single ball or something. Somebody must have put out the Wall or something. But I've never walked around thinking of myself by my nicknames. I like Rahul, and I just kind of, And I think over the years, as I've kind of retired, I think people have now, they call me Rahul. Yeah.
I still get excited every time I see that Wall. I must admit. I think, I don't know how you like it. I love that that sculpture or that wall, in Chinnaswamy Stadium.
Yeah.
That wall. What do you think about that? Did you like it?
It's nice.
Did you approve of it?
Look, I'm grateful again. I appreciate the fact that they've, done that and recognized my performances. And I don't look at it that often, but I'm thankful.
Yeah. And then right opposite, a lot of people might not know, is your mom's work on the wall.
Yeah. So that's something I look at a lot more often, and I'm really proud of is my mom making those sculptures. So my mom was an artist, and she taught architecture at Bangalore University for a really long time, and taught art there, and did a lot of these sculptures and paintings, and that was her thing. So we've grown up around art a lot in our house. There was a lot of, mom was always painting, and then she sort of did those sculptures, really big sculptures
huge
at the KSCA Stadium. So that's really nice, and it's nice for it to be there and for me to go there and always see it. And I know the effort and the hard work she's put in. So that's
when was that? And that would have taken a while, huh?
Oh, it's a long time. I think it was done around 2009, 8 or 9. I think 8 or 9.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since that's been there. It actually needs a little bit of refurbishment, but yeah, it's been a long time, and yet she'd done these, and then I think it was nice of the KSCA to give her the opportunity to put that up there and approach her to do it, and yeah, it's always nice when I see that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff.
Thank you so much, Rahul.
Thanks,
Ashish.
It's
been an absolute pleasure to have. And
it's nice to chat. I know we've had a lot of conversations, but to actually chat on a sofa with these mics and stuff is a bit different.
It is.
Lovely.
Thank you
Good
so
luck
much.
and all
Thank
the
you
best,
so
man.
much.
Cheers.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Thank you so much for watching and for listening to the entire conversation. If you've enjoyed it, please like it, subscribe, and share. In the comment section, let us know what you liked a lot, what you didn't like so much, which guests you would like to see on our show. Some of the stories that couldn't become a part of this podcast are there on my Instagram handle. Do check them out. Thank you. Have a great day.